All right, so last week we had this much done. And what I've done since then is I have gotten the doors attached, and I gotta figure out something to make a handle with. Now, the way I did these doors is I mentioned last week I was going to make a hinge out of a piece of fabric, which is what I've done there. I've just glued a little strip of fabric halfway over the door and halfway onto the part of the van so that it can swing open like you just saw. And that is one piece of fabric. I'm going to actually take a second piece and glue right over top of that just to strengthen it up even more. And of course, that will get painted over when I paint the rest of the van. And then also, like I had said, I wanted to angle them doors and then fill that crack in with some glue. So that is what I have actually done. And that glue is still wet, so I've got to let that dry good so that it'll hold that angle that it's got there. But that is looking really good. Again, I've got to figure out some door handles for the back and for the side doors. Uh, and since I'm actually filming this the same day as last week's video, I still haven't got to the part of like what am I going to use for the the headlights. But I guess I'll be reading comments from last week's video between now and the end of the video, so hopefully I can get some ideas for that. um, and let me see. Oh yeah, I've went through here. There was that little gap here, and I don't mind the gap because the real one has a little detail like this across the side. So that'll be a good place, to paint the top the way it looks and then have the detail matching like it really is in the cartoon. But I did put a little bit of glue in there just so that crack ain't so deep. And I did the same here on the front. And then it looks so cool looking inside. I can't wait to get to the decorating part. And I've pretty much got it covered with the gray paint as much as I'm going to do it. It ain't like completely perfect in there, but I don't mind a few scuffs and thin spots because it gives it some age and it makes it look worn. So I just done 2 layers in there, and it looks pretty good. I might need to try to do some sort of detail on the dashboard, but really I don't think they had any detail, and I'm going to try to stick to keeping this as original to the cartoon as I can. So I probably won't put no fancy buttons and stuff on there. Um, and it's going to be pretty basic. So I'm just going to grab me, I'm just trying to think of what I'm going to start with. I kind of want to paint it. I think I'm to the point where it needs to be painted before I can put in the windows and, of course, the door handles and all that. So let me quit rambling here and get on to finding some paint colors. All right, so before I paint, I wanted to make the seat for the van. So I cut out a little square, well, a little rectangle that will fit back in that spot where I had fixed last week. And that just sits right in there like that. And that's the seat. And then I've cut a little bit bigger rectangle for the back of the seat. So that's just pretty simple, nothing too fancy. And it's really hard to hold that in place. Second, I can get it stood up. I'm going to try to stand it up there. And then there you can see the seat. Now, I had this recorded, some of it, and had to redo it because I had music going in the background. I've been going back and forth from the Hercules soundtrack to Boys to Men, so it's very random music in the background, but I've got that muted now for a minute. So I just wanted to show how that looks before I cover that. I'm going to actually cover it in this little blue felt because the seat looks sort of like a bluish gray color. Sometimes the color varies in the pictures that I've seen, and this is the closest thing I had, and I thought the texture of this would look like a cushioned seat, so I just thought that would look cute. So I'm going to cover those 2 little pieces and pop them right back in there. So I've got the little chair done, and it looks pretty good. I think it's going to look better once I get it put in there, but it's just those little pieces of foam board and covered those, hot glued that felt on there. And now I'm taking this little chalky stuff and I'm kind of shaving a little bit off into this little cup, and I'm putting it in the cup so I can kind of have a little bit more control over where it's going when I put it on the chair. But I kind of put a little bit down in the crack of the chair, and I don't know how well that shows up. It's not really picking up too good on the camera, but of course I ain't got that much on it right now anyway, but you can sort of maybe see it back in there, but I'm going to put more. And I know it'll show up better in the pictures, but this light is like really drowning it out. But you can sort of tell the little the wear that I'm trying to give it, just like some age, just so it don't look so perfectly clean and new. So I'm just gonna get a little bit in here. I always feel like I'm doing something so weird. I always use blades and powders, and it looks like I'm over here doing something I shouldn't be doing, like some sort of drug or something, but I promise this is chalk. We are making crafts today. We are not doing anything illegal. So there's a little bit in there, and oh yeah, you can definitely tell that. Alright, so there's that, and then I'm taking this brush and just kind of brushing it around, and that kind of tones it down. It ain't quite as bad, but again, that'll show up better in the picture. But that looks so much better than being so clean looking. And boop, there's the little seat, and that looks pretty good. And so now I think I am ready to start painting. So I've got this turquoise, which it just actually says turquoise. And at first I thought it was a little too dark, but then I looked at this picture here and I thought, well, it is like a true turquoise color. So I think this is like the perfect shade to use. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one coat of paint. And I'm pretty sure it'll take more than one. So I'm going to go ahead and get one on there. And then while it's drying, we'll do some other stuff. So I've stuck me some in a paint. What am I saying? I don't know what I'm saying. I put some in a plate. Put the paint in the plate. And I'm going to use a little sponge brush. I usually hate using a sponge brush, but we're just going to see how this works. So let's just go ahead and slap a little bit of that on here. And I absolutely love that. I think that color is going to work perfect. So let me just get this on here. And like I said, we'll let it dry and then come back for probably a million other coats. Alright, so here's where we are now, and it looks pretty good. It's got two coats, but there's a couple of little spots where I want to kind of go back over it a little bit more. And then the next thing I'm going to do off camera is I'm just going to paint it. I'm just going to go and draw all these details on here, and then just go ahead and just paint them in. So there's really not much to it other than just drawing what I see and then getting that painted in. So I'm going to get that done real quick. So here's how it looks. Now here's what it looks like with the green paint, and something that I'm noticing, if you can see it real close, I mean, it's a bit crude. It isn't perfect. And part of my design for this, like you can sort of see through the paint where it needs maybe another coat, but I don't actually want to make it too perfect. I kind of like all the flaws in it, and I like that it looks like it needs another coat in places. It just looks like worn areas, and my design is to kind of make it seem more realistic. If you painted on a van in real life, it's going to start coming off and wearing and stuff. And from the research I've done, the Shaggy and all of them, when they got the van, they hand painted the van theirself with paintbrushes. So, I feel like this would look realistic if four teenagers took a van and brushed on some paint, so I want that kind of realism that it's looking, that it's got. And so it's looking really cute to me. So the only other thing I got to do is, of course, put those orange flowers on here. And I'm going to paint these little hubcaps here to look like the orange daisies. I know there's like some green in the white circle part here, and then the rest of it will be painted orange to look sort of like the flowers. And then I got some blue paint on there. I need to scrape that off. But I love the way it's looking so far. I'm going to have to put the letters on here, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull up a picture on my cell phone, trace it onto some paper, and then transfer it onto here and paint it in. Um, so now the other thing that I was worried about, I didn't know what I was going to use for the headlights, and I've got these silver sequins, and I thought maybe that would work, and so I put one on there, and I thought, whoops, hang on. I thought, well, that looks really cheap and dumb. And then I found these buttons that actually look really good. I mean, the size is better, and just the look of it. It's not just flat. It's just like the most perfect thing. Because if you look at that little picture, it's just a really simple little circle. And I mean, it just couldn't have been better. These actually were covered in fabric, and I ripped the fabric off of them. And that is going to make the perfect little headlights. And then there's another little light that goes kind of down below that one. And I just had these little rhinestones, and even though it's a little rhinestone, it still looks good. And I could even go over that with a little silver paint after I get it glued on. But I'm going to do all this, and then I think I'm going to take my paint marker and outline all that with a black, just to make it pop a little more. All right, so now for the letters. I did, just like I said, I found the picture I wanted, and I kind of zoomed in and made it the size that I wanted the letters, and then I just traced it onto this piece of paper. And to transfer that to where I want it, I'm going to actually cut this out a little bit so I can tell a little bit more where I'm placing it. So I'm going to cut it kind of close. And after I do that, I'm going to take this little chalk, and I've never done this with chalk, but I'm going to try it with this dark chalk. And I'm just going to scribble on the back of it. Alright, so I got that done. I'm going to knock all the loose off of there. And like I said, I've never done this with chalk, so I hope it don't make a mess on the thing there. I usually go over it with a pencil, like the lead pencil. And then I'm just going to lay it about where I want it to be. And then I'm just going to go over it with a sharp pencil and just trace those letters. And you got to be real particular and make sure you get it just where you want it, because that's going to leave an imprint of that chalk on the back side. So it don't have to be perfect, because I'm going to go in there with the paint and fill it in and make it look better. But you just kind of want to get it on there so you can see. And then there's the letters. So that actually works really good. I love how the chalk works. It done a little bit better than the lead. Alright, so let's see. Alright, that one's a little weaker. It's not as dark because I already done it on the other side, but it's there enough to where I can see it. And again, this is not perfect, but I love how it's not perfect because it makes it seem, like I said, more real and how kids would probably paint it. So I'm gonna do that, and then let me figure out where those flowers go. I'm pretty sure it goes right here, but it seems like there's two on each side. I don't know. I gotta look. I'm going by mostly the older pictures from the original series, because see, some of these new ones don't even have the daisies on the side, and they've got weird little added lights on it. So I gotta really look up the pictures. Well, look around my room. I don't have to use my phone for it. But so anyways, I'm gonna get the orange bits painted, and then we'll work on the door handles and the windows. So before I paint this orange flower, I'm going to go in here where it's blue and paint it green, because the orange is a little bit transparent and you will see the difference from the green and the blue, and it will look really weird right here if I don't do a little bit of green first. And that way the whole flower will have sort of the same look to it. Here's how it's looking so far, and then this side over here I've done got it trimmed out in black, and that's looking really freaking cute. So I'm just trying to get the black trimmed out, and then I mean, it's fun to do it, but I'm so excited to just hurry and get that done because I can't wait to start putting the decorations in it. I've got some really cute things to show, and it's like killing me, and I'm wanting to get it started. Alright, so I'm going to spray Mod Podge this, but before I do, I'm going to take these little chalky colors and I'm going to go around in places where I feel like it needs to be darkened up a little bit and just add some, uh, some dirt looking stuff on here, because I just, like I said, I want it to look a little more realistic. So I'm just going to sling up some of this chalk, and then I need a brush over here. Kind of work it in like that, and it's going to look like dirt. So I'm going to work and play with that a little bit with these different shades, and it's sticking pretty good. Sometimes when I go over my furniture, sometimes I do my furniture this way, sometimes it don't really stick to it as good. For some reason it's really sticking better to this. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is really, but it's sticking really good. It's kind of sticking a little better than I wanted it to. Oh no, I like that darker color better. So I'm going to get this done, and then I'm going to spray Mod Podge it. I was going to put the door handles and stuff on, and then I thought I really need to, do the spray before I try to put the door handles and stuff on, because I didn't want to spray over that stuff. But look how cool that's going to look. Oh, I love that. It just gives it some more depth, or like dimension, and another little touch of detail. I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm just going to keep working with it and get it to where I like it. Get a lot of dirt up around those wheels, because they go all over the place. They go into swamps and on farms and into a lot of dirty places. So that is looking so good. I mean, I'm looking at it in the camera and that's looking so cool. See, to me it's just a little too plain and cartoony, or I don't know. It's supposed to be cartoony, but it's also supposed to be real. So this side looks so good. I really love how that's looking. So let me finish that up, and then we'll attach some of the fun little things. Oh man, the more I do, the better it looks. Now I took this chalk and I went this away with it, and look at those little scuffy marks it's made. It has just really added so much detail to that. I think that looks so good. I'm going to do the top of it right here. It's not like completely flat, so it's not like, getting it even, but I'll spread it around with the brush. But I am so glad I thought to do this before going to spray it, because I know that it'll stick better than if, I had it sprayed first. And that is like really dusty. I don't know how well that shows blowing around in the room, but I'm going to have to dust everything, or it's going to have this brown film over it. But I got to get all these little spots. Anywhere's dirt would settle. Okay, so this is like a proud daddy moment. I am so pleased with what I have created here. Of course, we're not done. I've still got to put two little bars across the top and the door handles and stuff, but look at how cute this is looking. I am so happy with this. I think this is probably the greatest thing I have created on my channel. Uh, but that's probably just partly because I am crazy about Scooby Doo. But now there's these two little bars that go across the top, and all I've done is cut out a piece of wire and bent that into this little shape here. And then there's going to be a little detail that will go here like this. This is just a piece of cardboard with a piece of silver tape on it, and it's going to be part of this. It's going to go about right there, just as a little decoration that's supposed to be like where it's welded and attached to the top of the van. So I'm going to poke a hole right through there and kind of poke that in there a little bit and super glue that into place. There's going to be one on each side. And then there's two bars that go across. So I've got those done. And then for the door handle, I've got the perfect little door handles. I've done basically the same thing. I've cut a piece of wire, bent it into like a staple shape, and then that little circle is like I used my hole punch and punched it out of a piece of cardboard, and it's also got a piece of that tape on it. So let's just kind of hold that up here. Whoops. So that looks pretty cute. I'll get those super glued into place, and I've got one for each side, and then I've got two cut out for the back doors. So that's what that is. And then again, the headlights are these buttons, and I just got to glue those together because it's like a two-piece button. That little part comes out, but I'm going to keep it there because I feel like that little loop on the back will help glue it to the front of the car. And then those lower headlights, I'm going to use that little rhinestone. All right, so I forgot one major thing, and that is the tire for the front of the van. And I've got my little headlights glued on, but I've cut out this little piece of poster board. I just made me a little circle, and then I cut a little strip and rolled it around it and hot glued it in there to make this little cup looking thing. So that's just my little spare tire that's going to go on the front right here, and I've just got to paint that up real quick and Mod Podge it, spray Mod Podge it like I did the rest of it, and then we will see what's ready for the inside. So we're now to the point where I can show all these little things that I have been so excited about. Now I think a while back we saw my little pizza in a little pizza box. I'm going to glue that into place, and I'll have to stage everything in there. I'll probably, move it around a million times before I'm happy with where it's going, but I think I will glue this stuff in, or maybe just museum wax it in. I'm not sure. But then here's a toolbox, and I glued all these tools in there last night, just so the glue would be dry for today. Now there is an episode, or I know there's at least one, where they reach into the back of the van and they have a toolbox really similar to this. And here are the Scooby snacks. I think I'm going to put these in the mystery machine instead of having them laying around in the house. I just feel like they'd look cuter in here. And I'm even going to dump these out, mix them with a little bit of glue, and just kind of glob them up in a pile. And have them scattered out like that inside the back of the mystery machine. These are some little magazines that my sister had ordered off of Temu or something. I'm not sure where she got these, but they're just little magazines, and I thought they'd be kind of cute in here. I've got some of these extra little playing cards. There's several episodes where they had playing cards, so that would be good to lay a few of those in there. And I've got some of these little sandwiches that are really cute. They will lay back there in the back. And then the two things that I'm the most excited about, The first one is my sister had printed these things off for me. Last night I was laying in bed and at like 2 o'clock in the morning, my sister works nights, so she was at work and I was laying there. I worked on this really late and then I was laying there trying to go to sleep and I thought, I wonder if my sister would print something for me and bring it home to me the next morning on her way home to work from work. And so I said, will you print me these pictures? And let me see. She printed these pictures, but those are a little big. She printed a couple of sizes, but this is the same thing that's over there. This is a little Hex Girls concert poster. I actually designed it myself, and the Hex Girls is a band from the Scooby Doo series. Now, this is not a band from the original, like 1969 series. These came a little bit later, but I made this little poster up myself, and that's going to hang up in the top of the Mystery Machine. And then you can sort of pause there if you want to see that better. But that's really cute. I laid there last night between 1 and 2 making this on my phone, and then I sent it to my sister to print it off. And then the other two things are these two little albums. Again, there's some that's a little bit bigger, but these were more the size I needed. Now, I made these little, they're supposed to be little record albums, and these are Larry Marks. He actually sings the theme song for Scooby Doo. And then I think he did like the first season, and then the second season, Austin Roberts. He is the guy that sings it. So I just thought that was a really cool little detail to have the little guys that sings the actual theme song to the show. So really hardcore Scooby-Doo fans will know who these guys are. And then I guess you all will know since I just told you. And I just really thought the poster on the wall, the inside wall, would be so cute. So let's open up the back here and place this stuff. All right, so, well, first of all, these little record albums, of course, I just printed those off and glued them onto cardboard. So that's what gave them their little thickness. And then the poster, I think I'm going to stick the poster up here kind of like this. And I'm going to glue it on. But I'm going to take some tape. And there's two kinds of tape. You can see this tape. It's like a foggy look, and this one's like really clear. I'm going to use the foggy tape just because you'll see it better. And I'm going to cut tiny little pieces and put it over the corners of the poster to make it look like they taped it onto the side of the van. But I mean, really, it'll be glued. But I'm going to do the tiny, tiny pieces of tape just as another little detail. And then I did dirty up the bottom. Like you can see some darker gray spots. That's just to look like, you know, it's worn and not so perfectly painted. So I'll put that in there. And then, of course, the albums. I'm just going to, I think I will glue all this in. I'm just going to lean the albums up back here along the back of the, maybe lay one down and have the other one standing up. And then, of course, the toolbox. Push it back in there. And we'll have the pizza. And I may put a couple of the magazines on the front seat. And then, of course, the Scooby snacks I'm going to lay here. So it's going to be a pretty crowded little back seat. But, I mean, Scooby and Shaggy had quite a bit of stuff. So I'm just going to put all that into place and then do the pictures. But let's see. What else was I going to show? Yeah, here's the little door handles. I'm going to go ahead and show some of this up close. There's the little pieces on top. Those turned out pretty cool. And I kind of pressed in some little indentions there to look like little screw heads or something. And then, of course, the door handle on the side. Now, the only other thing I'm seeing now is I need to paint this orange. And then that little circle green. I need to look at the colors to make sure, because earlier I was painting this part green and leaving this blue. And I went all the way down one whole side of it, and I mean, I almost cried. I thought, I mean, it freaked me out, so I had to take a wet rag, wipe it off, paint it back blue. It was a big ordeal. I mean, I thought, I'm going to sit here and film myself crying and post this crap to YouTube so everybody can see what a big disappointment I am that I'm sitting here painting it the wrong way. But anyway, thank goodness, I caught what I was doing before I got all the way around it, because that would have really freaked me out. But I'm just so pleased with this. Oh, and also I got to get the plastic in the windows. So let me do all that, and then of course my spare tire. Alrighty, here is the final mystery machine. I am so happy with how this has turned out. I do believe this might be one of my favorite things I've made on my channel. Now it is a little bit wonky. I mean, you can see the brush strokes. This painting doesn't match exactly this side over here, but I was kind of going by how it's drawn in the original cartoon. It's really crudely done, and it's never exactly the same. I mean, those drawings were hand drawn for each scene, so they, of course, didn't match perfect anyway. But um, I dirtied up the wheels. I got those painted and dirtied those up. At first, I didn't have the black on it, so they were really bright and didn't really look right. So I had to dirty those up a bit. I did spray Mod Podge the whole thing again and got it on the window, and it made the window real foggy, but you can still see through it. So, I mean, it's not too bad. I didn't put any in the front because I thought that would be a good way to access it, to sit the dolls in it or whatever. But it's just turned out so cute. I'm so, so happy with it. Now let's flip it back around here. Let's go all the way around once. And then let's open up the back so we can see inside the back of it. There's the albums and all the food and the toolbox. There's the little poster up there. And I love how, like I said, you can see that tape on the corners. And I'll get better pictures of this all here in a little bit to show at the end of the video. I'm just so excited about it. There ain't much room for the characters in there, but they'll have to clean the back of their mystery machine out if they're going to make a trip. But anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe so you can see the final Scooby Doo video and some of the other projects I've got working on. And thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, in typical Billy fashion, of course, I am not done with the video. I forgot something, and I knew I was going to forget something. I forgot the back bumper. Now, this is the bumper that actually came off of that little Jeep, and I went over that with some of that silver tape. So now I'm going to hot glue these on here. That's the back bumper. I knew it was missing something, and I knew I'd forget it. So that's what it was. And then, of course, this is the front bumper. I'm going to have to get that glued on. And that, oh my gosh, that's even better than before. So let me glue this on, and you will get to see it in the final pictures.